All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Dimes and Donuts podcast, your deep dive into the BAAD Owners Fantasy League. My name is Garrett.
And my name's Nick.
And today we are right back into the season. We had a lot of crazy week one action that we are going to dive into right now. So, did we have any trades this week?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, which is good. Less for us to do. So let's just jump right into the dimes. Who cares about trades?
Let's do it. So, for quarterback this week, the dime of the week, as I'm sure that most people would expect that watched, is Tua, the Dolphins quarterback who's been having some issues with concussions last year, but put up 26.1 points this week for the T11 Tudgays. Had a great game. 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and ended the week with a 110 passer rating, which, I mean, I'm sure the Tudgays are happy about that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he's got a great quarterback in Tua, and I mean, imagine if he had Tyreek Hill on his team too. I mean, it seemed like every time Tua threw the ball up, Tyreek was catching him. That would be insane.
That would be insane.
Foreshadowing. Okay, next we've got the running back of the week. That goes to the Trash Fires with Aaron Jones. Look at Aaron Jones coming back. 26.7 points. He did have a touchdown. He only had 2 receptions, which is crazy. Usually when you see like 26 points on a running back, they're getting a lot of catches as well. Was not the case. Dude did it on the ground, showed why he can still be that awesome bell cow back. Removed from 2 NFC Championship game seasons with, the Packers. He's still showing that he's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, 86 reception yards, though, on those 2 receptions.
Pretty insane. 100%. That's totally fair. But again, like getting those,
true
point
exactly.
Usually are huge.
It's 100% true. Anyways, hopping over to wide receiver of the week, Tyreek Hill. What do you know? Also for the TD11 Tudgays. What a stack to have going for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's probably a better connection than, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase at this point. I think we just have to say it. Tyreek is a cheat code. He is open all the time. It's not even because of his route running necessarily, but he's really good after the catch, and he can just outrun everybody. So
he is the most elite acceleration out of any NFL player in the
ever. The degree of separation that DBs have to play off of him. I mean, it opens up everything. Like he can get stuff underneath. He can go over the top of you. He can do whatever. I think Tua is going to have a potential MVP season because of Tyreek. So yeah, 44.5 points. Combined with Tua's 26.1. That's 70 points right there.
Yeah,
from 2 players.
The 2 players
you can probably count on them getting you at least 50 every single week.
Exactly. It's going to be a consistent thing all year. So, I mean, that's going to be a scary, scary team to have to play against in fantasy.
Yeah, definitely. Next, we've got Hunter Henry. He was actually on my team. I traded him right before the draft to no Robin. So he got 16.6 points. And I think he had, not the catch of the week. The catch of the week went to Garrett Wilson on Monday. But the second catch of the week went to Hunter Henry right across the middle. One-handed snag. It was beautiful. Unfortunately, the Patriots did not knock off the Eagles. I think a lot of people wanted to see that upset. But with 16.6 points, that's incredible. That was like 4 times more than this projected.
Yeah, that's pretty great for a tight end. And unfortunately, just like the Patriots loss, the no Robins weren't able to get too much use out of him because they did not have Hunter Henry started. He was chilling on the bench. They did not have him
started. Yep.
So
this is the first dime that was not started of the year. These hurt a lot.
Yeah, and I'm going to be curious to see if no Robins end up using him more going forward. If they think this was just 1 week random occurrence that just so happened he happened to get 60.6 points just because of that receiving touchdown, or if he thinks that maybe Mac Jones is just going to be looking at Hunter Henry more. We'll just have to see.
It's the tight end position too, so if you play him and he goes off, great. If you play him and he gets 4 points, that's kind of what you were expecting anyway. So yeah, not the biggest position to worry about.
Right.
One position that people do need to worry about this year is defensive line. As we saw last year,
Absolutely.
They can wreck games and win you games, and that happened this week for TJ Watt and the Atlanta Cicadas with 47 points. Love seeing these guys go off. A 3-sack game will just blow your points through the roof. He forced 2 fumbles. He recovered one of those fumbles, and he was the entire Steelers defense.
I mean, seriously, having players like TJ Watt on a fantasy team is game-changing. I mean, they're game breakers. They're someone that you can know for a fact every single week that you don't have to worry about that slot. It's a lock. It's a TJ Watt slot. and he is going to give you mass amounts of points. The only reason he didn't do it last year was because he got injured.
That's true. I mean, he was doing it last year before he got injured.
And I think
and then when he came back, he put up points again.
Exactly.
So, yeah, TJ Watt, if he can stay healthy, lock for the Cicadas, and got him a win this week. So that's huge. Next, we've got linebacker. We've actually got your linebacker, Roquan Smith of the Nukes.
Yeah, so Roquan Smith put up 35 points this week, which, so I want to clarify exactly what's going on here for those listening. Roquan Smith was technically, if you go just based on position designation, the third linebacker, the third highest scoring linebacker. But the two linebacker designations above him, TJ Watt and Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jags, not the Bills quarterback, were started on their respective fantasy teams in the defensive lineman slot. And so that makes them ineligible to be considered as a linebacker dime for the sake of this show. So if anyone's wondering, why did yada yada yada, that's why. So Roquan Smith started in the linebacker slot.
No complaining. We don't take criticism here. We don't.
Exactly. Well,
that's what it's going to be.
We do take criticism. Please leave your criticism in the comments below. It helps. 16 tackles, 1 sack. I mean, Roquan Smith is a tackle machine. Gives him a great floor. What else is there to say?
Yeah, I mean, he's not that old either. I mean, he just got his big contract. He's going to be with them for a while. I mean, the Ravens, again.
Right.
Just the stout defense, middle linebacker. I mean, it's just a vibe. Next, we've got for DB, Jesse Bates. Oh, this is also your player.
It
just
is.
Not in a great spot because you did not play him.
I did not. 36 points, 10 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. Was a pretty great week for Jesse Bates in his first season as an Atlanta Falcon, which is a big part of why I didn't end up playing him. I wasn't sure. I mean, the thing with defensive players, especially DBs, it's so scheme based, and going into every single new season, I feel like there's always going to be a big shakeup as far as who the best DBs are fantasy wise. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited now to see if Jesse Bates is going to be the guy for that Falcons defense, which admittedly is pretty, relatively lackluster in DB talent. So I'm hoping that that'll cause him to have more fantasy points going forward. I'm going to have to start him next week, especially with a snap percentage of 72%.
Yeah, and I think especially when you look at defensive players, it's so much more matchup dependent. Mm-hmm. And, him being able to play against a rookie quarterback in his first game ever, and being able to play against the Carolina Panthers,
right,
I think definitely helps. So maybe you should have started him. In hindsight, it's easy to say that, but I haven't really, taken a deep dive into your room. But yeah, Jesse Bates. So yeah, DBs, look at the quarterback that they're playing against.
100%.
And odds are you're probably going to have some good scores.
All right.
So that does it for the dimes. Let's dive into the donuts. So the first donut is T. Higgins of the Clovers. Now, I mean, I have a Bengals receiver too. This Bengals game was awful. I mean, it was raining. It was, in Cleveland. The Bengals have had a lot of issues with Cleveland. Joe Burrow had one of the worst games of his life. Actually, it was the worst games of his life, statistic-wise. And he was thrown at 8 times and could not come down with a single ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's rough. Like you said, though, it was a rough game for anyone who isn't aware, which I don't know how you wouldn't be, but it was basically like a monsoon, it looked like, during the Bengals-Browns game. But to be fair, the Browns weren't having nearly as much trouble moving the football around as the Bengals were.
No, they weren't. Deshaun Watson also had an interception, so it's not like the Bengals didn't have opportunities, but if you look at the receivers on the Browns as well, they weren't doing too hot either.
100%.
Between Amari and Donovan Peoples-Jones, they were out there. Deshaun was either underthrowing or overthrowing, or people were dropping stuff because of the rain. So yeah, I still think that we give this a little bit of a pass because I'm starting T. Higgins every week.
Agreed. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm implying. It does make me a little worried about, hey, what's going on over there on the Bengals. Not that I would start Joe Burrow. Not that I wouldn't start Chase or Higgins or anyone, but seems like maybe a bit of a slow start to the season.
Yep. Agreed. All right, next you want to talk about Drake London of the Cicadas. Only thrown out 1 time.
Yeah, I think that's just going to be a result of a few different factors. One, Desmond Ridder, right? not a rookie quarterback, but it's his first time taking over that starter role after being drafted last year. As well as Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier absolutely tearing it up on the ground for the Falcons. It's just going to cause a bit of a drop in targets for Drake London and the other receivers of the Falcons, and the Atlanta Cicadas felt it last week.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so next we've got Tracy Walker on the Rockers. So it says DNP. The problem with Tracy Walker, so a little bit of background. So he had an Achilles injury last year after he got paid pretty substantial contract. Like, he's been a pretty good DB for a while. And yeah, just did not see action against Patrick Mahomes.
They simply didn't play him.
Yeah, simply didn't play him. It's tough because, like, his starting job is in jeopardy.
Right.
You've got Brian Branch's, new promotion to first team. That definitely took some stuff away, and Brian Branch played really well in that game too. So don't think I'll play him next week, even though he's still projected like 12.1 points. It's really hard to, look at a performance like that and see the big donut on your roster and still trust that. So,
agreed.
Not great.
Next up, for no Robins, Dallas Goedert. Only targeted once and didn't come down with it. Unfortunately, I think that's sometimes just the reality of the tight end position, right? Yeah,
I've got no problems with playing Dallas Goedert. I've got a little bit of an issue for no Robbins playing Dallas Goedert because, again, he's got 4 offensive players on. You're not always going to get everybody eaten. But, yeah, if I had Dallas Goedert, I would have started him.
Completely agree.
No problem with it.
Especially if you don't have anyone else really competing for that role in your room.
Yep. And then the surprise of the week. 0 points, donut, only 1 pass attempt, and the craziest real-time injury I think I've ever seen. Aaron Rodgers of CD's Nuts goes down on 9/11.
How do you think that CD's Nuts is feeling about this development?
It's devastating.
Yeah.
It's after you see Zach Wilson, get in the game and, end up winning, it's like, wow, what could the Jets have become? Right. I was not high on the Jets. I was pretty high on their defense, which proved to do really well, but still I was never like, oh my gosh, Aaron's just gonna go bonkers and throw a bunch of yards. He's got Garrett Wilson, blah blah blah. This sucks. It's a great starting quarterback for at least the next 2 or 3 years.
And I think that not just for CD's Nuts, but anyone with Jets offensive players is going to really start, well, at least the receivers. Garrett Wilson is going to be massively affected by this as well. I think that if I was a Garrett Wilson owner, I'd be nervous.
I think I would too, but you also have to remember that if you've got a Zach Wilson and you do have rookie quarterbacks, well, not rookie, but young, unproven quarterbacks, or proven in the wrong direction.
Right.
I think the one silver lining is that they are going to lean on the other talent around them. So whereas Aaron Rodgers could throw to whoever and probably feel comfortable with it because of his throws, I feel like Zach Wilson or whoever is going to be the quarterback there can kind of close their eyes, throw it up to Garrett Wilson, and at least have a better chance. So he might even see more targets, but you got to stay on the field to get more targets, and I can see a lot of 3-and-outs in their future.
Agreed. And, worst case scenario, I just checked. Garrett Wilson is actually owned by the Clovers, so this might end up being actually not a positive, but not the worst.
Oh, it's a
thing
positive
in the
for
world
them. I think they're still tanking.
Right.
So
I think they're still trying to get some early round talent next year.
Yeah, but still, super sad for Aaron Rodgers. And I got to say this, when he went down and then stood up, and then sat down.
Yeah.
When you see, there's visible footage of the camera zooming in and seeing his Achilles literally snap. 99% of humans would be on the ground screaming and crying like a baby.
Agreed.
Aaron Rodgers is a freaking man.
Yeah, that was devastating.
It's crazy.
So why don't we go ahead and hop into where we the standings are one thing, and the standings at the end of the day are all that really matter. But let's hop into the power rankings to see where we kind of feel like everyone is standing.
Yeah, you can check out the standings on your app, online, whatever. Cannot get power rankings there. So, for the power ranking, We screwed up last week by starting at 1. We're going to flip that and do it the right way. So coming in at number 10, the Dallas Clovers. Basement invitation continues.
Yeah, I don't think that's a surprise to anyone.
Nope, don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Who do we got next?
In the 9th place spot, and I feel this is so weird to me. It kind of tears at me a little bit, but we still have no Robins holding it down at 9th. I think that I really think that if they had 4 more points, we would have seen some pretty significant moves up. And I, deep down, like that's who I'm somewhat rooting for to kind of make a huge comeback this season.
All right, gotcha. Next, we got Point Break, who actually fell 2 spots. They were in the playoffs in our projected power rankings at 6. They have now fallen out at number 8.
Yeah, I think that not having your team fall apart due to one team, the Chiefs specifically, kind of falling apart is a huge hole. I think that as far as which team to be linked to, the Chiefs are a pretty good one, but with Kelsey being out and that causing a bunch of issues with Chiefs players, not a good position to be in.
Agreed. Next, we've got CD's Nuts. Like I said, they really, really surprised me this week. CD's Nuts actually jump up a spot. They were 8 last week, and now they're back up to 7.
Yeah, with the 2-0 win, I think that's totally fair and valid.
Agreed. Cicadas at 6. Again, knocking off our number 1 projected team in the first week of the season. Fairly handily by like 25 points. Was impressive. So, yeah, the Cicadas jumping up a spot from 7 to 6.
Making them playoff bound in our eyes. 5th place, huge fall from Brooke Grace, your team, the Rockers, dropping down from 1st place last week all the way down to 5th by having a historic low performance and getting absolutely, walloped, unfortunately.
Yeah, listen, we're just like the Kansas City Chiefs. We had a really bad loss in week 1, and we're still going to win the Super Bowl. And nobody's going to remember this.
Yeah, and I think that's really why you didn't drop even lower. Just because I think still the roster is fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, week 1, it's hard to derive like an entire team's worth off of 1 week. So you're not going to see too much movement. But I mean, 4 spots for week 1, that just shows you how awful this week was. Again, historically bad.
Right. In the 4th place slot, 4th overall, we're going to give it to the Indica. I think that they had a bit of a just decent week. It caused them not to move up and down. Last week we had them at 4. This week we have them at 4. They won the median. They lost the week. They got a decent roster. Didn't do anything super impressive. 4th place.
Yeah, one of the only 2 teams that actually stays in their slot. No, the 3 teams. We had the no Robins in the slot as well. Yeah, 3 teams. All right, so next we've got the Trash Fires. Coming up all the way down from 5 to 3, again, benefiting from a couple people falling and them doing really well. I mean, they do not score 300 points regularly if you look at their 2022 stats, but I mean, if they can keep putting up performances like this, they will go far. So I think number 3 is a really good spot for them.
Yeah, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they maintained a top 3 position throughout the season.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is what they did last year. I mean, they were crushing it, and everyone was like, oh, how do they keep doing this? At some point, you are what your record says you are. We said that a million times last year. Right now, they are 2-0 and looking great. So next, we've got the Plano Nukes.
Yeah,
they were projected 280 points. They scored 280 points.
I think that is the
most consistent team ever.
Yes, that's the epitome of our team, is doing exactly what you need to win, not having any blowout victories. Well, this week was a blowout victory, kind of, but that wasn't necessarily because anything we did.
It wasn't because of you, because you were playing the Clovers, which is your honor for winning last.
There you go.
You get that honor. You deserve it. You guys are definitely the Patriots or the Chiefs. Do your job, show up, and you're going to win games. Might not be pretty, but you'll do it. All right, next we've got the TD Lovin' Tudgays taking over the number 1 spot, switching from 3. I mean, the Tua Tyreek combo that we've been talking about. It's going to be so hard to beat this year. And I mean, we're not even going down, the rest of their roster. This is with Joe Burrow having like one of the worst weeks ever. That's not going to happen the rest of the year.
Oh, 100%.
Like this team is going to go crazy like they did last year.
I mean, when you look at the redraft value of the TD 11 Tudgays, it's insane. I mean, just to touch on some of the key people I'm talking about, Joe Burrow, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Darren Waller's had a little bit of a fall, but still a fantastic tight end.
He's a tight end, yeah. Okay.
And then Tua, I mean, and that's not even touching, like, Alexander Madison, who's been having some great redraft value lately just due to, Dalvin Cook leaving. I think there's so much firepower in the offense of his team. And then, of course, Josh Allen, the defensive lineman, doing fantastic, and a ton of his other defensive players absolutely popping off this week. I think that as of right now, it is totally fair to say that if I was a betting person, TD Leventadge is who is looking the absolute best going into the rest of the season.
Out of 17 weeks, we're only at number 1. But yeah, I mean, it's proven to be a great team. I mean, last year they were in the Super Bowl. They represented their side of the bracket, and yeah, they could definitely do that again. I would not be surprised in the slightest if the Tudgays were at this spot quite a bit this year.
Agreed.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up today's episode of the Dimes and Donuts podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for the exact same thing.
Be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, y'all.